But we're going to welcome the two men that hopefully will bring entertainment. Many people have been missing you two. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you believe that. But Marty, Thom, welcome on to this humble abode that we try to call a show.
Thank you very much, Trace. Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be back with you.
That's right. Thom, how you doing? You doing all right there?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You know, you were talking about those endings. My dad called one of the greatest endings.
I can't hear
time.
Thom
I don't
at
know
all.
if it was one of the top five or top four you had there. And by the way, I don't hear my dad, and I don't think he hears me.
I think Casey's working.
I hear you now.
Yep.
Yeah, I got you now.
He called the Christian Laettner shot to beat Kentucky at the buzzer in the NCAA tournament.
Well, that's a funny thing you bring up because Elliott's done nothing but slander that play since we started this show. He believes that too many colleges decide to try to throw the ball down the floor anymore instead of just inbounding it, somewhat near the basket and letting the kids shoot from half court. He believes that that essentially the Christian Laettner play is a terrible play. Marty, do you have anything to add to that before we kind of started getting into some relatively hard-hitting topics here?
Yeah, let me preface my answer to that stupid statement by Elliott by saying I'm already tired about this greatest walk-offs in the history of friggin' sports. If you're going to do it by sport. Don't do it. But everybody forgets. Everybody forgets the home run, the shot heard around the world in 1951 because none of you people were around. I was. When Bobby Thompson hit the home run off Ralph Branca to send the Giants into the World Series on a National League playoff game. That's the single biggest walk-off in the history of sports. In terms of Elliott completely misses the whole concept of what happened when Laettner hit the shot to beat Kentucky. Had Rick Pitino played the inbounds pass, which he did not, then that pass would have been much more difficult to make and maybe would never even have made it. But Rick Pitino, who fashions himself as the greatest coach in the history of the game, he still maintains that if he had to do it again, he would have played the inbounds pass from Grant Hill to Laettner. That's certainly one of the greatest plays in the history of college basketball in a game that many people much more knowledgeable about the damn game than Elliott is will tell you that may well be the single greatest college basketball game ever played. That's all I got to say about it.
Fair enough. Let's stay on the topic of college basketball here because let's see if I get both of your opinions on this. Based off of X.com, Marty, UNC basketball seems to be a very, very topic of conversation usually for you. You're very passionate on there. You love college basketball. You seem to obviously have days in which you like to get on the head coach there. For folks that are a part of UC fandom, they're starting to kind of come around to this notion of whether they're starting to fall off the bandwagon of West or not. How many years do you think is fair for a guy to take over a program and to be at a program before you start to say, you know what, this is all on him? Is there a year mark? Is there other caveats to that? What's your opinion on that situation?
I'd say 3 to 4 years. Maybe that varies a little bit now because of, if you hit the jackpot in the transfer portal, you can become an instantaneous top 10 team in the nation from one year to the next. So the whole thing has changed to some extent. And I can understand UC fans because they're just like every other fandom covering every other program in the country. They're front runners. They expect to win. But my response to them is, one, I'd give him more time and quit bitching about the fact that they're not winning, because I still maintain they are one really good offensive player away. When you go back and look at their schedule, the games they've already played and the games that they have lost, come back and tell me how many losses in those games were more than 10 points. I think the majority of the losses that they have incurred, especially against good ball clubs. I mean, they played the number one team in the nation last night and lost by, 8 or 9? I think you have to look at the whole situation, and I would certainly say that, let's see what happens in terms of newcomers into the program next year, because they've got to have some people that can shoot the ball. And so I'm not as upset and concerned about the basketball program. I'd be more concerned about the damn football program right now than I would be the basketball program. But I have great faith in Wes Miller, and I say that with all understanding that I'm very prejudiced because he's a Carolina guy. I'm a Carolina guy. I think he deserved the job that he got here in Cincinnati, and I think if given the amount of time that is fair, I think he'll make this a winning program in a very tough conference.
Thom, same question to you, but you have some UC fans that point towards the team across the way in Xavier, and they say to themselves, well, you have a situation where Sean Miller comes in, he takes over a team, he finds some kids out of the transfer portal, and the next thing you know, they're in the NCAA tournament his first year there. Now, obviously, those two situations might not be exact, but what would be the pushback or your belief in Wes Miller, Thom, on the situation that he has at hand right now with his program?
Well, I mean, I think what my dad just said is spot on. I think the one thing Wes Miller had, or rather Sean Miller had last year, forgive me, is he had a go-to guy when it mattered in nut cutting time. So they boom. I mean, this guy was one of the top scorers in the conference. UC doesn't have a player on their team right now that's one of the top scorers in the conference. They have guys capable of being that one day, but they're not there right now. So Boom had that. They had two really good big men. They had a nice team last year. I mean, they got to the Sweet 16. That was a nice team. This UC team, I'm spot on with my dad, although I think, I can't decide whether it's harder or easier to build a good program anymore. And you've heard different things from different coaches that I have a lot of respect for, Patino being one of them, is that not only are you recruiting the players out of high school, okay, and then you're recruiting in the transfer portal, but basically at the end of every year, you're re-recruiting the guys in your own program for them not to enter the transfer portal. And I think that has become a very, very serious challenge. And I think it's why you're going to see some coaches in football, college football, if they get the opportunity, they're going to move on to the NFL. And that to me tells me it's got to be harder, because it's one thing to have to recruit. It's another thing to have to recruit a kid for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years that's already inside of your own program.
All right, fair enough. Shifting gears here quite significantly. You have every time this part of the year, you have a certain part of this fan base that is the Cincinnati Reds. They want to bring up where spring training is held. You have obviously a lot of people that used to make that trip down to Florida and Sarasota to be able to enjoy spring training. Now it's moved over to Goodyear in Arizona. Marty, you've kind of had the chance to see both sides of the aisle, if you will. What's your take on the fans that kind of wish it was back in Florida? Is it the franchise's responsibility to cater towards the fans and their preference on where they would like it to be so they can enjoy it? Or do you think it's just strictly business? Let's put this where it makes the most sense for our franchise and our team to get ready for the start of the year.
Trace, I think it's the latter. Certainly, I think they'd love to have the fan base in Goodyear that they had in Sarasota, because Sarasota and Bradenton and all the other towns that surround that part of the state of Florida are people, a huge amount of people who have retired down there from Southwest Ohio. So they had a built-in fan base when they moved there initially. In Arizona, obviously not so much. I think if you took a poll of the fan, the real baseball fan would say, I wish they were back in Sarasota. And that would be because of the easier accessibility to getting down to Sarasota as opposed to getting on a plane or driving all the way out to Goodyear, Arizona to watch their favorite team play. But I think at the end of the day, I think and the other thing is you got to consider what kind of deal you're getting, what kind of facility they are building for you. And what do you benefit from being wherever that town may be located in Florida or Arizona, who's courting you and going all out in order to get you to come to their community and play your spring training games. I love Arizona. I went out there with a chip on my shoulder because I didn't think there was anything like Sarasota, Florida. And at the end of the day, I'm fully convinced, and have been for a long time, that the best place to get ready for a major league season is Arizona, as opposed to Florida. The weather's better, less chance, obviously, of rain, the proximity of teams to each other, as opposed to Florida. I think hands down Arizona is the best place to train.
All right, Thom, we're going to make that track all the way out there here next week. Do you have any, for a man that has lived there, is very well known in regards to what's surrounding that area, you have a guy here in Elliott who I think I've asked him, he's really excited to hike. I think that's what he's looking forward to the most. He wants to get out there on the range. Marty, you're not allowed doing that.
I'm sorry.
But I was going to ask, is there anything that you think that we should do, because we're going to vlog all this, we're going to video it all. Is there anything that you think that people would like to see have maybe Elliott go do while we're out there in the Phoenix area?
Well, I mean, if he wants to go hiking, you can't go wrong there. I mean, that's as good a place as there is on the planet outside of, like, maybe some of the places in Utah and maybe some of the Zion National Forest and those places. But Arizona's got a lot of places very close to Goodyear that you can go out and go do all that. I would like to see Elliott. There's a difference between when you get on a golf course, and my dad certainly can attest to this. The primary difference between Arizona golf and Florida or Midwest or even California golf is what's called transition, which is a fancy word for desert. Okay? When you hit out of the rough at Houston Woods, it's tough. It's tough. But when you're hitting half of your shots, and it might be more than that for Elliott, Dad, tell me if you agree, he's going to be hitting out of the transition. And I think the video of that in and of itself might be worth all of the production value that you're going to be spending time on and man hours on while out in Arizona.
Interesting. I come on this show and I expect to have fun with friends and be welcomed in with love and care. But all the Brennaman family does is just attack little old Elliott. Well, I got a couple questions for you. Casey, I believe I have a graphic for Thomas Brennaman. Thom, I saw this on X.com, and this is your friend Elon. His website, he allowed it, and I wanted to just show it to you. Ohio State has self-reported 4 recruiting violations. Would you say it's good to see a team cheat the right way, like Ohio State has done?
Well, I mean, you got to define what the cheating is here. I mean, they're reporting themselves, so there must have been something that happened that they obviously think is against the rules and they shouldn't have done it. So, yeah, I think there is a difference between, you found this out, you come clean on it, and you lay it out there and say, hey, we did this, our mistake. You guys decide what to do now, as opposed to that team up north, and we knew all what was going on there the last 3 years. And you had to have people come out and, beat down doors to find out the truth.
That's fair. That's a fair point. I guess that's my last Ohio State question. I just wanted to make it known that I just wanted to make it known that it seems like Michigan and Ohio State, they both they both cheat a little bit, but that's okay. Ohio State reports their cheating, and that makes it all the better. I have a couple. You guys were slandering my golf game. Would you say that if
nobody slandered your golf game?
What do you mean?
Nobody did. Nobody did. We just like to say we'd like to see you hitting out of the transition rather than the rough. Because
I believe
there was that video of last year where you're literally picking up a tree of a branch that had fallen. You physically moved this tree, limb,
per the rules,
to go hit a ball.
You
can't do that. You can't move a cactus in the rough.
Oh, Thom, you don't know my will to shoot an 89. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if there's a cactus in my way, I am moving it, thorns and all, needles and all. I move it, but I that's fine. If you guys want to slander my golf game, you're saying I'm going to play 90% of my shots in the rough. That's okay. I'll let you guys do that. I've got a couple just general questions for you. You guys are big travelers. What's your favorite road trip snack? You guys got a favorite road trip snack when you're heading out there?
I like Cheetos.
You like Cheetos? That's all right. I like that one.
I like Cheetos and Fritos. They're my two favorites.
They rhyme.
Yeah, I'm more of a peanuts guy.
You're a peanuts guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right, a couple other questions. Marty, this one's for you specifically. You seem, and this is don't take any offense to this. You seem like a guy when you're flying on planes. As soon as that plane lands, you're gonna start the slow clap, and you're gonna get all the people going with a little clap that we all landed safely, and then you're gonna be the first one to stand up. Is that true?
I may be one of the first to get up, but I'm sure as hell not sitting there clapping my hands.
That's fair. Let's see. Is there any other questions I had? Okay, I have a couple. I'm gonna get serious questions. We're having too much fun. This is a very serious sports talk show. I'd like to get serious. If you guys take away anything from spring training, so we're watching guys take what, 2 at bats, 3 at bats a game, maybe if we're lucky. What do you take away from spring training, if anything? Because I don't think this really makes or breaks a guy's career, unless I'm wrong. But let's say Candelario, a guy we went out, free agent. He doesn't have a hit yet this spring. Are we going to overreact to that, or is this just part of the workout process?
Thom?
Dad, go ahead, Dad.
That's a good question, Elliot.
Thank
You
you.
ought to write that down and make that one of the top 10 questions you've ever asked.
All right, I'm gonna do it.
I would say that, I'm sure there are going to be fans. If you're going to use Candelario as an example, I'm sure there are going to be fans that, if he bats 125 in spring training and maybe hits 1 home run the whole spring, people are going to send up the flag and threaten to jump out of a 30-story window and all grades of bad things. But I don't think that spring training really means a whole lot other than getting ready to play. And if you have any power to do it, you don't. But you have to hope, like the Dickens, that come opening day, all your key people are healthy and they're ready to go. I never put a lot of stock in how bad a spring has had, just like I've never put a lot of stock in a guy batting 425 for the spring. Yeah. I think that's all well and good, but he's facing pitchers that are working on things, and in many cases working on things right up until the beginning of the season. So I don't put a lot of stock in that stuff.
That's fair. And a follow-up question from that for Thom here. If there was a rookie that potentially could, or maybe it's not even possible, because there's certain journalists in the city, and I won't name them here, but they're basically saying that no job is safe, no job is certain. Is there a rookie that could potentially lose their job this spring because of a performance during, like what Marty just said, it's an exhibition type style games? Is that even a possibility that one of these rookies can lose their job here?
Well, I suppose anything's a possibility, but
Yeah.
do I believe for 5 seconds that the Reds are going into spring training asking Ellie De La Cruz or asking Matt McLain? Now, they're 2 very different players and success levels from a season ago. The flash of De La Cruz, just the rock-solid consistency of McLain. But, no, I don't think that any of those guys, Marte, Encarnacion Strand, Cruz, McLain, Steer to a lesser extent, but none of those guys are going into spring training having to hit 320 and lose their jobs. They're too talented. This is the core of the team. Does that mean not one of them will be sent down for maybe one reason or another, which we don't see right now? Maybe they're not healthy in McLain's case, which he's not right now. They keep telling us he's going to be all right, but we'll see. And you know how I feel about that. But no. And I don't, to your first question of my dad, I don't put any stock, good or bad, on what a guy's doing in spring training, nor do I put any stock on what a guy does in the month of September, a young player that's called up. Because by and large, you're facing in those games in September a lot of pitchers who are just being brought up like you are from the minor leagues, and you're not facing day in and day out regular, big-time, accomplished, consistent starting major league pitchers.
It's fair.
All right, final question here before we get you out of here. We know you got to run. We appreciate you coming on here, and hopefully we can make this a nice, lovely tradition here on Wednesdays as we have before. But one more somewhat serious question here before both of you go, and I'll leave both of you to answer this in your own way. If you could pick one player on this Reds team, let's call it an X factor, whatever term you'd like to use, that you could guarantee, hypothetically guarantee they're going to play at or above what is come to be expected of them, who would you choose to do that and why? Marty, we'll start with you.
Well, I think if I had to pick one guy, I would probably pick Candelario because he's been around the block. He is a veteran presence on this club. I would have to go with him as opposed to any of the guys that were rookie players in 2023. I hear so many people talking about how this club is a lead pipe cinch to be an impactful club. I believe it is, but I think there's a caveat to that, and that is the term sophomore jinx. And we've seen it happen time and time again. The most recent example from the Reds' perspective is Jonathan India. He was rookie of the year. The next year, for whatever the reason, injuries, whatever the case might be, he did not have the year that he had the year before. All of these kids came together last year. These kids have to perform at or better than what they did last year in order for this ball club to be as successful as everybody thinks it can be. Nobody's willing to talk about the sophomore jinx because they don't want to say, well, you're being negative. No, I'm being a realist. These kids got to perform. But if I had to pick one guy, I pick Candelario because of his experience and his track record.
All right. Tom, who would be your
player? The one guy, I mean, I agree with my dad 100% on the experience factor with Candelario, and I very much agree in a sophomore jinx. But the one guy to me, and he reminds me mentally of a lot of Joey Votto. And the one thing that Votto had was constant grind, never letting up. And Encarnacion Strand strikes me as that kind of guy. I think that if you just leave him in there, the numbers that he's going to put up at the end of the day, if he is playing regularly 5-6 days a week, I think you're going to look at his numbers and you're going to go, wow. I just think that this kid's got a chance to be a really good, really, really good, solid offensive player for a long, long time.
All right, there you have it. Tom will be on the airwaves this Friday as usual, and he'll be back around the corner there on that Monday, and we'll see what the schedules lie for next week. But we'll hope and love to have you back next Wednesday.
Yeah, and Trace, let's be honest here. As I said to you in a text earlier this morning, this segment really is all about Marty. So it should be set up as like 3 questions for him, 1 for me. He's the guy they want to hear from, and I am completely comfortable in my skin admitting that. We want to see him sort of, go off the reservation a little bit, right? That's sort of his MO, and that's where we are on this show. So you're not hurting my feelings moving forward by having more engagement with Marty than with me.
I think you're embarrassing Marty a little bit here. I think you're embarrassing him.
Embarrassing him.
And listen, let's be fair here. I don't know if there's anybody that is more inclined to do exactly what you just said, maybe getting underneath the skin, poking and prodding, more than anybody that I know than Thom Brennaman, which is probably why you might just be a part of this as well. We're going to bring up topics of conversation every so often. Tom, if you want to be the measly mouse there and just hide in the corner and not say anything, that's fine. If you want Marty to take over the show, we all know that he could do that. I'm just saying there's going to be a topic of conversation. I already know over the course of time, at some point, you will poke your little head in there in that little corner that you're sitting up there in, and you're going to start to needle and jab, and you're going to find a way to get peak Marty. You're going to find a way to get peak Marty, and we're going to hang you. As long as you're okay with it, we're going to keep dragging you on this show, and we'll see if we can't get there. But I know Marty's got to run. Marty, thank you for coming on here.
All right,
Tom,
Trace.
hope to see you in the studio.
Good being with you guys.
God bless both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Same here.